This feels a lot like hell.
Are you serious?
Like what you see?
This is torture. Put a sock in it. No one cares. You're a whore. You're a whore, just admit it.
If you couldn't already tell from the title and thumbnail, this is why you should buy Shadows of the Damned. But real quick, let's have a peek at who made this pretty pimping game. Shadows of the Damned was created from the combined grey matter of Suda51, or Goichi Suda, Shinji Mikami, or, you know, the godfather of survival horror, Akira Yamaoka, the dude most well known for the fucking Silent Hill 2 soundtrack, and all Silent Hill soundtracks, and Massimo Guarini. Why he was the fucking director of this game, I will never know. Okay, let's go through these dudes' previous works to see if they are worthy of creating a title worth your time. First of all, Suda51, or Goichi Suda. His style of games are known to follow a punk-like philosophy of doing what you want in the way you want. That's why his games' discography, or whatever, consists of some of the more weirder games in the world. And when I say weird, I don't mean weird for the sake of being weird, like something to the likes of Mr. Mosquito, which to define in a single sentence, I'm sorry, what? His games are weird, but with actual substance and deeper meaning to them. Well, at least the ones where he acts as director. Games such as No More Heroes 1, Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes,
We're trying to butter up the gamers!
Killer 7,
How to hit on women with 100% success.
Deal.
No More Heroes 2 doesn't really count because he didn't act as director for that, but whatever.
I can't be associated with that travesty. I mean, I've got standards, for fuck's sake.
If you want to find out the deeper meanings to Suda's games, watch these videos by Genry Perez. I hope that's how you pronounce it. They're long as shit, but they're hella fire. Basically, Suda's games are known for being weird, but despite that, I pretty much love everything he's touched. Next on the list, we got the man, the myth, the legend, Shinji Mikami. You know, the guy who was often referred to as the godfather or father of survival horror? You know, the guy who made Resident Evil games back when they were really fucking scary? Except 4. 4 isn't too scary, but also still revolutionized third-person shooters on a whole, so he kinda knows his stuff about directing games. He also directed God Hand
I've got a killer hand! I've got a killer hand!
and Vanquish, which is fucking sick. So, you know, he can do more than horror. I also didn't know this, but when I was researching this shit, it turns out he was also an executive producer on Beautiful Joe, which is fucking sick. This man also directed The Evil Within and supervised Evil Within 2.
I told you I wasn't going to leave this place. It's fucking evil out there.
That may be, but there's evil within, too.
Whatever. I'll take my chances in here. See you around, Sebastian.
Which is fucking sick as well. So let's just say this man has earned his accolades. So far I've only talked about the people producing and writing the game, but let's talk about the man who is known for writing symphonies to chill your soul. The man behind some of the most chilling soundtracks heard in any horror game, more specifically being known for his work on the Silent Hill franchise. That man being Akira Yamaoka. He's also worked on some of Suda's games in the past, such as Lollipop Chainsaw, Killer is Dead, and No More Heroes 2. Neat. I'll probably be playing some of Yamaoka's Silent Hill stuff like Reprise or some shit in the background so that you can understand that this man knows horror music and can give you some goosebumps. So from all that exposition, you would assume that given Yamaoka and Mikami's horror tenure and the prestige in the genre mixed with Suda's zany, wacky, philosophical shit, we would get some weird horror game that delved into some weird meta shit. Well, originally it was going to be. I don't have time to talk about what this game could have been. If you want to know more about it, look at the aforementioned Genry Perez videos where he delves into that matter a lot more than I can, with a lot more long words in a better way. Like, just look it up. But long story short, originally Shadows of the Damned was a game called Kuroyami, where the main character would fight creatures in a small remote town using nothing but light. No guns, no nothing. Because Suda didn't want another stock horror game filled with guns, so he tried to make something different. Which is something he'd like to do given the fact that his most famous franchise, No More Heroes, started on the Wii, the most family-friendly console on the market. Suda basically made this strange, Kafka-esque inspired horror game concept and looked for places to try and get it made, because of his own company, Grasshopper Manufacturer, being quite small, and then EA happened. I feel like I don't need to say much more on that matter, but I shall. Basically, EA wanted changes, and appointed some random dude as the lead director on a project Suda headed the concept for. Yo, future Josh here. I didn't know where to put this in the script, but despite this, the concept art for the game is absolutely fucking magnificent. It looks really sick. That's all I have to say. I'll continue now. Really quick, let's take a look at the random dude to see what kind of accolades that this dude has compared to his kohai on the project. Given how talented they are, he must have had some pretty good games, such as the open season game. I can see why this game turned out a bit different from its original concept. But let me make this absolutely fucking clear. I know it seems like I'm ragging on the game, and I'm going pretty hard on it, which I am. But I also love the finished product, despite the pre-production. I'm just curious to see what Kuriyami could have been. But that being said, despite the game's hectic production, let's take a look at the finished product. After all, it is one of my favourite games of all time. And my favourite games consist of shit of like Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, Persona 4 Golden, and some other random shit that a lot of people don't like besides me. So you know I got good taste. Let's go over a brief overview of a bit of the plot. Obviously not all of it because I want you to play it, so I'll talk about it till around the first boss fight-ish. So the story takes place from our main character's perspective, a demon hunter called
Garcia Hotspur.
And joining us on this journey is our partner /gun/guns/torch/BFF Johnson. So where do we start this adventure? Well, in Garcia's pretty flash apartment where him and his fiancée, Paula.
No!
I see you're doing well for yourself, mate. This place sure is nice, but it should be a shame if a demon lord named Alexander Fleming came in and stole your fiancée and then forced you to go to the demon well to get her back before you had a chance to grab your shirt, so the only thing you can wear in the entire game is a leather jacket without anything underneath throughout the entire game. Yeah, that sure would be a shame. So now we're off to the demon world and Garcia looks kinda chilly. To get to the demon world, Johnson becomes a bike so he can put that on his resume. Basically, the door to the demon world is just a door at the end of a long ass highway.
How do you know? That's like super classified demon information.
Not according to the internet.
We get through this big spooky door and set off to save our Angel Paula. Along the way we'll meet epic characters such as Liquid Snake.
What the shit is that?
Me, dear brother.
Blowjob on the go job.
Me, or are these crystals a bit phallic?
You're one to talk.
Harmonica solo.
Bonk!
A standard furry affinity user. Nishandra from Dark Souls. Evil Dead.
Why do I feel like I'm in a movie?
What, were you raised in a barn?
Where we have the same tastes.
The man who discovered penicillin. Army Man, aka Red X's real identity.
Whoa, who did this? Mr. X!
Mi amore.
Well, that killed my stiffy.
And of course, Garcia fucking Hotspur. I know that was pretty quick, but that's all the stuff I'm going to give you regarding the plot, because it's somewhat interesting at times, and if you do for some reason take my advice and play the game, I want it to be as much of a surprise as possible. I want it to be a nice, fresh experience. So let's jump into the actual gameplay of the actual game itself, as this is, you know, to some people's surprise, a game. If you played any third-person shooter before, post-Resident Evil 4, you've played a game that plays pretty much like this. This game plays pretty generically with some unique mechanics, but we'll get into them unique mechanics later. So basically, as this game had the aforementioned Shinji Mikami behind the helm, well, one of the people behind the helm, the gameplay really takes after some of his other games. For example, the previously stated Resident Evil 4, Evil Within, and strangely enough, most similarly of all, the game plays a lot like Dead Space, in which Glenn Schofield, the director of Dead Space, said himself that he and his team were attempting to make Resident Evil 4 in space.
Some of my influences to make Dead Space from the game industry was definitely the Resident Evil series. And Resident Evil 4 had just come out when we were starting on this game. And Resident Evil 4 was actually one of the things I would say to the team is we're going to make Resident Evil in space.
So basically it plays like Resident Evil 4, but you can move while shooting. So the gameplay itself boils down to an over-the-shoulder camera, L1 to aim, R1 to shoot. Pretty stock standard. Remember back in the day when the PlayStation 3 didn't use the triggers to shoot? The good old days, man. You also have your circle for your melee button, which can also be used for finishes on downed opponents, which can also be charged to stun opponents as well. Pretty stock standard stuff. But one of the things that is retained from Kuriyami is the game's focus on light. You can use a light shot, which is used with R2 or RT, whatever the fuck, I'm playing this on the PS3 version anyway, so fuck the Xbox. The light shot, which allows you to stun your enemies as well as get rid of the darkness surrounding their body, because if they are covered in darkness, they can't be damaged immediately by your gun. Johnson. In gameplay, it's simple and satisfying, and thematically, it's really cool and harkens back to the game's original concept and design. This game also has puzzles.
Fucking hate puzzles.
Using the mechanics of light and dark I previously mentioned, because if you, yourself, the dude with the controller, the player, gets put in total darkness with zero light, you slowly begin to die, forcing you to rely and need light. With the focus on light and darkness, puzzles show where you have to be in complete darkness for certain things to appear, so you can unlock the next area. There's also use of fireworks to grant temporary light and respite from the darkness. Some areas will also be lit completely fine, but will require you to shoot a goat of light with the light shot, because that's how goats work. And that will brighten the next area somehow, because if enemies are in complete darkness, you can't kill them, because the light shot won't take the darkness away from them because there's more darkness, so you can't kill those enemies. So you will need the light even more, so you can't do shit to them if you don't bring more light. Also, there's enemies that stop the goat from creating light, creating even more darkness. But there's one thing I have to tell you about the game's use of darkness. It really sounds like I like the word darkness. In Shadows of the Damned, when you enter the darkness, Garcia's body gets weakened as previously stated. But so does Johnson's. Also, a quick little thing about the gameplay that's extra satisfying is if the first shot you get on an enemy is an instant kill headshot, you get this cool little zoom effect that is hella satisfying. There's obviously more to the gameplay, but that's just a little tidbit that's fucking smooth as fuck. You've also got a few boss fights that make use of the darkness mechanics in unique ways. You unlock more weapons as well as upgrades for those weapons. You get 3 weapons overall, but you are constantly getting upgrades for them so they don't feel stale. You're also collecting white, red and blue gems. White gems are your stereotypical currency for your merchant. Christopher, the aforementioned Liquid Snake, they have the same voice actor, which is very weird. Red gems, which upgrade your stats as well as your gun's stats. Blue gems, which are tied to level progression and mission progression, and can only be obtained after killing bosses, but upgrade your gun's mechanics and give you new guns like previously stated. There's also some weird 2D sections spliced in, as well as some weird on-rail segments. So overall, the game is fun. It's a shoot 'em up through hell with your standard game progression. It doesn't do anything crazy gameplay-wise, but has unique mechanics with light and darkness, which help it stick out from other shooters, which help the game feel different from its predecessors, as well as some pretty cool boss fights and passable puzzles.
Fucking hate puzzles.
The main thing about this game that should pull you in is the writing. As I said, the gameplay isn't ridiculously unique. But Josh, you've already talked about the plot. Shouldn't that already count as the writing? Yes and no. When I'm referring to the writing here, I'm referring to the world building, the character dialogue, and the boss's backstories. Okay, for example, for the first boss, mild spoilers. Duh. But the bosses in the game are people who are put in the underworld for their sins. Shocker. But these are characters that left the world of the living in style. People who died in pretty brutal ways.
That fella looks like a VIP.
Very important, pendejo.
Something like that. Fleming gives his favorite souls special treatment. People who exited the world of the living in style.
Not all demons are damned?
Oh, everybody's damned. The VIPs are just comfortably damned. Little perks here and there.
Such as?
They get to keep their genitals.
The first one we see, the Harmonica Man, and his story, like all the other bosses, told to us through Johnson and Garcia literally reading their story. And this is where the character dialogue comes in. One of the cooler things about the character dialogue is when Johnson and Garcia talk, as that will make up the majority of the character dialogue, as they have a cool buddy cop dynamic. As they go through this journey, it shines through a lot during their narration of the boss's stories. Johnson's calm and well-paced voice, spliced with him interjecting jokes and comic relief, along with Garcia's narration, laughing at some of the stories, as well as his mispronunciation of words, as it seems English is not his first language, leading into Johnson then correcting him. I love it. They bounce off each other very well.
The man who never had his fill. And that night, George proved it as he buried his face in Mary's beaver. Holy woodland creatures! Attaboy, George! Attaboy, George! Play that harmonica, she purred. But even after 5 trips to heaven and back, he had not had his fill. In his final days, George was all skin and bones. I can relate, except for the skin part. Out came a cacophony of wheezes and toots, but the boy understood.
Wait, you mean Jorge ate his harmonica?
They shared stories of how he'd filled them with hope, filled them with life. They, at least, had had their fill. Especially Mary. The end.
The game's interpretation of the underworld is also quite humorous. All around, the underworld is filled with bright posters or propaganda, giving the player an inkling of what it's like in this version of the underworld.
I understand why brains and eyes are on the menu, but why do demons like strawberries?
You don't know about strawberries? They're demon fruit, G. Fleming's idea of a practical joke on the world of the living. They're made of ground-up tongues.
That's disgusting.
That's not the half of it. You thought Pop Per Cherry was just a figure of speech.
As well as what it's like to live under Fleming's rule as a democratically voted dictator. It's pretty funny.
Don't any demons try to challenge Fleming? You know, like a coup?
Yeah, right. Do you know what happened to the last demon who tried that?
No?
Neither do I, G. All they found was a shish kebab with 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 kidneys, and 2...
Never mind. He sounds like a real dictator.
The writing comes down to this. The central narrative focuses around the seemingly stereotypical damsel in distress and a hero and his helper, going into hell to get her back. Not ridiculously unique, or at least it doesn't appear that way. So when starting the game, if the character dynamic between Johnson and Garcia doesn't grab you, or the representation of the underworld, or the overall aesthetic of the world doesn't captivate you, don't force yourself to play it. It may have Suda's name on the box, but unlike most of the other games that do, there isn't a ridiculous amount of depth in it, like in something like No More Heroes 1 or Travis Strikes Again. It's just dumb fun. The writing's funny, the dynamic between Johnson and Garcia is excellent, despite the voice lines not being recorded together at the same time, which, when I found out, shook me a lot, with some good but not overly complex gameplay with Yamaoka's music to boot. The music. A quick section on the music here, as there isn't a ridiculous amount of things to say about the OST. It's Akira Yamaoka, so it is objectively good. It isn't the Silent Hill OST, so don't go in expecting that. But the opening acoustic guitar on the title screen, god fucking damn. The music does its job, and my favourite song from it is aptly called Shadows of the Damned with the Damned. The soundtrack is mostly atmospheric and suits the horror aesthetic of the world, such as in the tracks like Rider of the Last Heart and 12 Feet Under. I just really like all the tracks, so if you're curious, try out these two. The aforementioned Shadows of the Damned with the Damned and Different Perspective. As I said, there isn't a lot to say about the game's OST. It suits the underworld aesthetic and it does its job pretty well. I mean, it's Yamaoka. What did you expect? It ain't perfect. Despite the amount of praise I'm throwing this game's way, it has some problems. The biggest of which is the pop-in. The pop-in can be pretty bad. I mean, it's the Unreal Engine. What did you expect? The game also doesn't have a real completion bonus. I fully platinumed this game, and once at the end of it, for all your time, all you get is the trophy itself. Well, technically you do get something. The first time you beat the game on Demon Hunter, medium, you then unlock Legion Hunter, hard. That's it. Don't expect any extras from this game. It's pretty bare bones besides the actual game itself. This isn't actually really an annoying negative for me. I've beaten this game more times than I have fingers. So like, at least 7 times. And getting footage for this game was a nightmare, as there is no chapter/mission select. So when I try to play a specific mission, I have to play through the full thing again. And when I'm just trying to get B-roll, it's a little annoying. And a chapter or mission select is kind of expected for a linear-based game. It can be annoying. Also, a big negative. You can only play this game on PS3 and Xbox 360. No PC port. Which means if you do buy it, as the title suggests you do, you're going to have to whip out the console from 2 gens ago. Or you could maybe open PCSX3 and emulate the game, which is something I do not condone. I mean, it's not like I can't find the files or anything online, so I can't emulate the game. Which means I do not agree with it. It's illegal and very naughty. No, be a good e-boy or e-girl and buy the game dead fucking cheap like me. So let's recap. The gameplay is pretty simple with some nice little touches and can be pretty satisfying due to the headshot effect and the glory kills I forgot to mention. as well as the use of the darkness mechanics. The story's main narrative is pretty stock standard, or at least appears to be so, but then the writing of the characters and the world building are pretty fucking sick. The music is great, yet again, it's Yamaoka. What the fuck do you expect? Yes, it has problems, most important of which being the pop-in, but if you played a lot of games from around that time that were on Unreal, you're probably used to it by now, like me unfortunately, so it's not the worst thing in the world, at least for me. But some other people may have a big problem with it, so if you have a problem with the pop-in, it's kind of blatant and it's kind of prevalent, so keep that in mind. Also, there isn't a PC port, which does hold the game back as well, but if you want to emulate it, I can't stop you.
The Josh of Twitter channel does not condone any emulation of any sort. We here are good Christian boys who only play Pajama Sam and Raving Rabbit, because if we play anything else, Papa will take out his belt.
But overall, I love this game. I love its humour, the relationship between Johnson and Garcia, the boss fights and their lore, and how it is read to the player. Yes, it's not as deep as No More Heroes or some of Suda's other projects, but it's just stupid fun. It takes around 6 or 8 hours around that to go through on your first time round, and this game just starts with 2 dudes on the highway to hell. Thanks for watching, fellas. You probably know what I'm going to say now, so I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to tell you to like, subscribe, whatever the fuck. If you watch this far, it's more than enough. Thank you very much. It's very much appreciated. It's quiet, but if you do these things, I am not going to complain. I don't know what my next video will be. Probably some weeb shit, to be honest. I mean, if you look at my videos so far, it's like 90% weeb shit. Toodles. Peace.
Now, I'm motivated.
Oh shit, 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 oh shit!